professional serving community. Talkradio.nyc.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It's your guy, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you 2 flights up from the kitchen. You know that, where I get my coffee. And right now, I've been telling people I switched to this mushroom coffee, man. And it's not those kind of mushrooms, everybody. Don't start freaking out. It's not those kind of mushrooms, but it's like good for your brain and good for the ADHD. And I gotta, it's made with coffee, and then I put a little more coffee in it. But if you want the recipe that I'm mixing up, like in my lab down in the kitchen, you got to reach out. The show's called Philanthropy and Focus. I'm the nonprofit sector connector. A couple of years ago, I connected with an organization called the Institute for Nonprofit Practice. And I knew going into that I was going to learn a lot, but I knew going into that I was going to make a lot of good connections and relationships and friendships. And for sure, that's what happened. My guest this morning is Michael Partis from the Red Hook Initiative. What's up, brother? What's going on?
Good morning, everyone. Tommy D, thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk about what's happening in Red Hook, Brooklyn at the Red Hook Initiative.
I'm excited too. I'm excited that I got to see you a couple weeks ago. And, I don't want you to move around from different organization to different organization, but it does give us an excuse to get you on the show more often if you, if you're repping different spots. But I kid, but I love connecting with you. You bring me such knowledge and you really give me insight into some things I'm just not aware of. Before we even get into the conversation, I just want to make a couple quick points. This week, I was out with another nonprofit organization doing an interview out here on Long Island, the Center for Environmental Education and Discovery, CEED, Long Island, out in Brookhaven. Met with the team there, met with Ranger Eric, met with Sally, met with Audrey, the team, and had an awesome opportunity to talk to them about what they're doing because they're one of the semifinalists in the Vanguard Benefits Long Island Imagine Award Rising Star category. So I had that opportunity. And let's take it from Long Island, Strong Island. Let's take it to New York City because the fifth annual New York City Imagine Awards will be October 28th of this year. But here's what's the important date everybody needs to know. Go to nycimagineawards.com, and I'm specifically focusing on this because Michael's coming to me out of Brooklyn. So the 4th of February, we will be having Let's Imagine, which is an opportunity where all the winners will be speaking. All the winners from the fourth annual Imagine Awards, New York City Imagine Awards, speaking February 4th, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Reach out to me or just go to nycimagineawards.com. But if you got to get me, TommyD.nyc or TommyD at philanthropyandfocus.com, PHOCUS. The other thing that's really super important is January 21st, which is in 3 days, 22 hours, 52 minutes, and 48 seconds. Now it's 47 seconds, 46. I got to do a show. I can't just count down the whole thing. But go to NYC Imagine Awards for all of your organizations. If you're connected to, serve on a board of, run an organization, work at an organization that does work in the 5 boroughs of New York City, you got to get them out to apply. Free to apply. It's an award. It's not a grant. And if you want to reach out to me or the team at Serini and Associates, who are the founders of the organization, do that. Reach out to me, Tommy D, at philanthropyandfocus.com. And you know it's with a PH. All right, let's get into it. Michael, I started out that we got to connect initially through the Institute for Nonprofit Practice. It's the cool thing about that was meeting so many people. This sort of what I see was an area of opportunity when we first all connected. We connected on Zoom. Whereas that program, the core certificate program, those folks used to get together in person, but it happened to be in that COVID era. So, it's funny, you were getting honored up in the Bronx December of that year. And I was like, I want to meet this guy in person. We built a relationship, we built a friendship. So I went up and saw you when you were being one of like Bronx finest or the Kings of the Bronx, or what Vicky Schnepp's and Schnepp's publication, they always do those big lists. And I got to see you walk the red carpet, so to speak, and things like that. So I think, I'm so jazzed that we now know each other like in a human form, and but so many right on, but so many relationships like started like that in Zoom during COVID and turned into and blossomed in great relationships. But I guess we could start there because I know how like interested in the work you are, right? And how important it is for you and professional development. So just your experience with INP, probably very different than mine, but did you get to keep in touch with a lot of people from the work we did together?
Oh, IMP was really impactful. In fact, our coach, Jill Eisenhart, had a little small group of us, and I still keep in touch with Jill. Absolutely, and we could get more into that. She was a tremendous coach and thought partner and advisor and leader for us. And Maheen and Kofu and other folks in the group, I still keep in touch with them. It was a really interesting learning experience, but the relationships, right? As you pointed out, relationships are what's most powerful. Relationships are what's most important. And when we do this type of work in nonprofits, having relationships and being in community with others is really important. And it's not just others who we practice with, right? So it's not just being able to talk to another executive director, another founder, it's not just that, but it's even more deeper of people that believe this society could be better. People who believe that inequality doesn't have to just continue on, that it can be solved. When you're in a community of people, not just in roles and practice who do the same thing or similar things, but have a similar belief in a better, more just, equitable society, that's powerful. And that's what I carry with me. And that's why when you call and you say you want to talk, and I'm like, I'm with it because I'm having the opportunity to be in community. And I mean, that's what you do on this show, right? You create community of people that share a belief and share a vision of the world. That was some of the most powerful parts, I think, in addition to the people of that IMP program, just being in community and the feeling that it gave me and the trust that it gave me. That's what I carry with me. And that's why when you call, I answer.
I love it. Well, listen, you know what? I learned a lot about deposits into relationships, and making those deposits and being there for people. And that's really where we create the word you said a couple times. That's where we create community, and community is what it's about. And you said, we believe in a society that can change and a society that things are gonna be better. And I listen, it's all about getting together, learning from each other, and improving this situation for sure. So the Red Hook Initiative is a community-based nonprofit impacting the lives of over 6,500 residents of Red Hook, Brooklyn. And you say here, together we can create change from within. Isn't that it, man? That's an empowering statement. That's what it's about. We create the change, right? And a lot of community-based organizations, Michael, I feel, are focused. And you mentioned our friend Mahim Kaleem, and I remember Mahim being one of these folks. She's over at Grant Makers for Girls of Color, and just saying like the community knows like how to fix the issues, the community knows what the challenges are, right? And it's not like some folks, some organization, some philanthropist just kind of come in and like say, oh, we know what you need, man, let us fix it for it. No, 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 it's empowering people in community, right? Like in the actual geographic community, right, in a lot of cases, to make the changes and impact the changes. So before we even get into really Red Hook Initiative, what its history is, what's going on there now, and some of the conversations you and I had over lunch a couple weeks ago, I really want to get into your background because the work you've done, all the way from at the college level, from activism and things there, and then all the way to Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative, where you were when you and I connected and first met. Um, let's just start with that. Michael Partis. Who's Michael Partis?
Um, Michael Partis is someone that believes in social change. And Michael Partis has been committed to different aspects of creating that change. One of the things that is important to my formation and my story is I grew up in public housing. So I lived for 7 years in the Castle Hill houses in the Bronx, and we lived in public housing. And so for me, that experience in being in public sector, so to speak, right? Being in government subsidized housing, really shows that those type of investments in social policy, in social programs, they do make a difference. Without that stable public housing, would I be here now in the way that I am? So that's one part of my story that's really important, that I'm a kid from public housing. I think another piece in order to get to social change is it was most obvious to me how economics impacted people's belief and what they think is possible and their conditions was a big thing. But I also realized that another challenge or another thing that is in the way of change is just people's belief, right? Like believing that having that growth mindset and the belief that they could be the leaders of their local neighborhoods, of their local institutions is really important. And so the path to one, think about the economics of this, and two, the beliefs in this is I was an educator. I taught for over a decade in the City University of New York, CUNY. I taught for over a decade in the CUNY system. I'm an anthropologist by training. And I spent most of my time teaching at the two-year college, Borough of Manhattan Community College, BMCC. And I loved it. That was like some of my favorite work. It was difficult work, but a community college is really a place where people who are striving, people who have hopes, right? They come at all points of their life. You get young people in school trying to earn credit for college in advance. You get people right out of high school who decide that, this is their path into a degree. You get many adults who come back after life, right? Like start and stop school or worked and now wanted to upskill, or they're older and now they retired and now they have the time. I've had everything from retired postal workers to the local high school at Mary Bertram teaching their early college class, to having what we would think as traditional college age folks. So that experience of being an educator and being an anthropologist is really important. I'm an educator of social change. And I think the other thing relevant is I'm a social entrepreneur. So I've always kind of had the itch to say, well, what can we create or what can we make that aligns to what people are already doing, but also solves or addresses something that's critical. And so my like kind of nonprofit career was looking at issues, looking at challenges, and saying, okay, what can we do? And so two things that I did as a kind of social entrepreneur, I would say, it was a part of the founding of an organization called Young Movement Inc. And we were trying to be the AARP for millennials. That was kind of the idea. Millennials, seniors have their own AARP. What would a millennial one be? So that was one. And we were working on policy issues. And then to land the plane here, the second was called the Bronx Brotherhood Project. We did that out of New Settlement Apartments, their college access center. New Settlement is a nonprofit in the Bronx, and they have a college access center. And for 3 years, they allowed me and a very good friend of mine, Kevin Brooks, to run a college success program for Black and Latino young men. And so we did that. So like solving those issues through education, through programs, that's kind of been my place.
Yeah. So I love how you said we're gonna land the plane. I don't do well with landing the plane, man. I never really land the plane, to be honest with you. We just keep flying around and eventually we get to a point. But some of that stuff, we are gonna take a break in a second, but some of that stuff, the Young Movement Incorporated and the the Bronx Brotherhood Project, um, that college program is something I really want to dive into, because that stuff that's that mentorship. And I know you and I talk about mentorship over the years we have. And as it relates to uh, your growth and what you're doing in the world, and that social entrepreneurship, I promise everybody we're going to get into Red Hook Initiative and what it does. And I think it's critically important that you get to know Michael better and better, because I've taken 3 pages of notes while I'm hosting this show right now, because you drop such great knowledge on me. I want to just mention one quick situation. You mentioned BMCC. I went to Nassau Community College out here on Long Island. I'm a product of CUNY. I went to Brook for a little while too in the city, and graduated SUNY Old Westbury out here on Long Island. So certainly a product of the state school system and a little bit of time in the city schools. And I mean, it's just definitely um, folks get clouded, I think, and like, I got to go away. I got to go to a private school and spend all this money and things like that. And first of all, not everybody has the resources or access to do that. And secondarily, you can get a great education in state and city schools, right, Michael? I mean, it's just incredible opportunity, probably like of something that's not focused on enough in looking at that, and maybe that's a little bit of advertising by the big schools and all the nonsense and stuff. Up, he said nonsense, but all that stuff that goes on, like you got to get this, you got to go there, you got to keep up with the Joneses. I don't really think that's exactly what it's all about. That's a whole nother show where I can tell you what I think about that. Because again, here he goes. We need tradespeople, gang. Not everybody needs to go to college, man. I know some great electricians, some great plumbers who go into business on their own eventually, or don't go into business on their own, right? You can make a great living in the trades. You can make a great living becoming an owner of a company that's in the trades. There's so much opportunity. Not everybody needs to go to college. Challenge me on that. TommyD.NYC. We could talk about that one all day. All right, we're going to go a quick break. When we come back, Michael, I want to talk about Young Movement and the Bronx Brotherhood because I want to see how that created that mentorship for young people. So we'll be right back. This is Tommy D and Michael Partis, Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Do that. Cut through the static. Join me in the attic. A couple weeks ago, actually, it was maybe like 11 days ago. It was my birthday, and my buddy Mick Collins texted me some AI versions in kind of like a reggae song for a reggae like genre for the theme song. So we might be changing things up. We might be playing some things. Maybe I'll even sing to you all. So it's funny. Talk about AI, Michael Partis. I type in Bronx Brotherhood Project right now, right? And this AI overview comes up from Google, and it says the Bronx Brotherhood Project is a community-based program that helps Black and Latino teenagers in the Bronx succeed in college. The program is located at the New Settlement College Access Center. And then it goes on to explain. And then it says right here, who founded it? Michael Partis co-founded the program. Partis also worked with other initiatives in the Bronx, including South Bronx Rising Together. Like, gotta love the internet, man. Like, if you want to know who is Michael Partis, you could just Google it, or you could just pay attention to the rest of the show. But how cool is that? I was just Googling it while we went to break, and it's all there for us. So let's talk about that initiative. Let's talk about the Young Movement initiative, and like really, because I know it's all about mentorship. It's all about bringing up our young people and changing. You talked about a couple things. You talked about resources, economic impacted beliefs, and growth mindset, right? So we got to reset people's mindset. I used the word set twice, but we got to do that, right? Because that's sometimes folks in certain community don't get to see either representation or don't get to see opportunity, right? So tell me a little bit about that and how that mentorship works.
The internet is amazing, huh? So at the Bronx Brotherhood Project, me and one of my really good friends from college, Kevin Brooks, who is one of the co-founders of run a business now called Live from the Bronx. That's what Kevin does now. But when we were in college, we kind of one, we recognized that there was a under enrollment of young Black and specifically Latinx men at our college. We went to Fordham University. And then two, we also saw that a lot of the young men who did get into the school like had a hard time like getting to graduation, myself included. So after college, Kevin went into working at the College Access Center and noticed that, again, in getting ready, getting high school kids, getting them ready for school, Black and Latino men struggling, young men, boys struggling to stay in the program or just needed some guidance, some mentorship. Tons of talent, tons of potential. So we got our heads together. The research professor guy and the advising guidance guy. We got our heads together and said, what if we took some of the men that we know in our network who are of good character, willing to be volunteers to come just meet every Friday, have some pizza and do some icebreakers and some relationship building stuff and talk a little bit about college. What if we could get 5 fellas? And what if we can get maybe 10 young men who are in the program to keep them to finish the program? What if we get it together? And so that's what we did. We had pizza at the New Settlement College Access Center. We would do some college going things like, what is a syllabus? You know, you get to college, it's like a syllabus. What is a syllabus? When you have a bill, where do you go? Bursar, what is that? Right? And then, of course, the more traditional stuff of your essay, your interview. That's one set of things that we would do. Then the other set of things is we would do like cool icebreakers, like get out of the strings and throw the yarn and connect one another. If you was on a beach, what was the one thing you would bring? We would do things like that. And then over food, the adult volunteer young men would talk to the young boys and just, how's the things going? What's going on with you? What are you interested in? How that last thing worked out. So we would build relationships. And so for 3 years, we would spend 3 months, 3 to 4 months a year running the Bronx Brotherhood Project. And a lot of those young men are in college now. Some of them in PhD programs. Jay Arzu is in a PhD program at UPenn as an urban planner. Just as an example of that investment, that time, it matters, right? And it's from one Michael Partis to like as many more young people that we could do that for into adulthood is critical to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thank you. Shout out to Kevin Brooks. Kevin, I never met you before, but I appreciate the work you're doing. And I will Google probably after the show live from the Bronx and see what that's all about. I think, it's the I talk a lot in my life and in some of the content we do here about the ripple effect, Michael Partis, and what is the ripple effect if you and Kevin Brooks don't see an opportunity. I mean, you said you actually had some challenges even finishing up at school. So like what it is, right? I have to imagine that if we talk to one of those young people who went through those programs with you guys, they probably say a lot of the success and a lot of the focus they've been able to have is based on the work they did with you all and those relationships. So what's the ripple effect of that? These young men who might have had a different turn in life end up getting through college. And like I said earlier in the last segment, gang, I'm not up here trying to say everybody should go to college. It took me about 6 years to get out of college, to be honest with you, and I'm not a doctor. But I was on a different path. I did it sort of like Sinatra. I did it my way. But I think there's an opportunity for us to explore things, and see that. Michael, talk to me about that. Well, you know what? Even before we go to that, I want to just say, as you were talking, I wrote down the word paradigm because you started saying things like bursar, like if I got to go pay a bill, like what's a syllabus? If I am an individual who has no context of that from wherever I come from, or I haven't seen people in my community that are in those types of discussions, I just don't know, right? So it's giving people context so when they get into this paradigm, they can flourish. And I'm imagining that during their college career, these young men would have a chance to reach back out to you and Kevin and some of the other leaders. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think on the other side, interestingly too, about this idea, Tommy D, about the relationships and helping people think about their future. While at the Bronx Brotherhood Project, part of that work was building relationships and thinking about college going. At Young Movement Inc., which is another organization I was a part of the founding of and on the original staff, we had an entrepreneurship program. And the entrepreneurship program we ran out of the Weeksville Heritage Center which is in central Brooklyn. And at the Weeksville Heritage Center, there's a public housing project right next to it, Weeksville Houses. And we would recruit young people from the Weeksville houses, from the public housing, to be in this entrepreneurship program, where we specifically were looking for young people who were not enrolled in college, not enrolled in school, and putting them on an entrepreneurial pathway. So that was really important for us to do. And Quayshawn, helping him think about his security business for music as his one example. Invested in those young people is really important. So thinking about all the different pathways from entrepreneurship, maybe there's college going, a trade, just meeting people where they're at and providing some support to help them fulfill what's meaningful for them and something that would help their socioeconomic status. Part of my social change as the type of person I'm in this world is doing it in that way. And those two early experiences reflect that, I think.
Yeah. Those great stories, Michael. Thank you. And again, I mean, I hate to just sound like it's cliche, but thank you for being a change maker in this world. The stuff you're doing is changing lives, and I appreciate it. And I know you would say it's the people you're around and the people that are with you and people on your team at Red Hook Initiative, things like that. And I think it's just critically important to show gratitude for somebody like you. I know you're barely halfway through all the change you're going to make in this world, right? But you've accomplished so much, and I want to say it, shine a light on that. I started a new show called Long Island Changemakers that I do as a TV show, and we probably got to get you on that. Although, Brooklyn geographically is part of Long Island, gang. So you can't argue with me when I say Michael Partis is a Long Island changemaker. Plus, no, you can't argue with me anyway. It's my show. I'll do whatever I want. So we should get you on that show to sort of break it down a little more on some different things. We're gonna go into, BCDI. Talk BCDI real quick, if you could, and what that experience was before we take a break and go back into or get into RHI. Take that away.
BCDI, the Bronx Cooperative Development Initiative, is an organization, that is creating more economic mobility and community wealth building in the Bronx. So the fundamental question that BCDI asks is, what if we owned it? What if we owned land in our community? What if we were the urban planners to plan our community short-term and long-term? Those type of questions. And so what it did was it brought different type of stakeholders, some nonprofits, some businesses, some entrepreneurs, to come up with strategies that would create more economic mobility for working class Bronxites, but also to allow Bronxites to be a part of the decision making in their local economy, which was really important as well, to have people know that what the economic decisions are, like land use, for example, that innovative solutions like community land trust, and just that there are minority business owners, MWBEs, minority and women business owners, that need opportunity as well. What are the type of things we could do? So BCDI did that for 3 years, working with an incredible group of organizations like the Point CDC, Youth Ministries, Peace and Justice, Mothers on the Move, and their incredible Wanda Salaman. Just incredible organizations working in partnership. Jobs First NYC. I can go on and on. I don't want to leave anyone out once you start naming names. But that was a great opportunity to think about a strategy for a borough and how to just continue that work of social change. But in that instance, it looked like by changing the economy. And that was an incredible time I had there.
Yeah, I as you're dropping all the names, I'm like, I gotta ask Michael to help me out, man, because we got the New York City Imagine Awards, as I started talking about earlier, and you have all these names that I don't know, so I want to tap into you and say, hey, Michael, maybe we can reach out to some people, because it's a simple application, 6 different categories. Hopefully I can get them all right. Rising Star, Social Impact, which is basically the same award, just based on the size of the organization's budget. Leadership Excellence, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. Leadership Excellence, if I didn't say that already. Innovation Award. And it's already coming up on the 5th annual New York City Imagine Awards, and I would say the biggest challenge is we're not having enough organizations plugging in and applying. At last count, and I don't count them one by one, but at last count, there was 36,000 some odd nonprofit organizations in New York City. So I will ask you for a favor. I gotta see. Is that true to say that Brooklyn and the Bronx are way ahead in regards to DEI than Long Island? I don't know the answer to that question. Juliana Mello is checking in on YouTube. You know what? I don't know, Juliana. Michael, you have anything you want to jump in on that one? Do you think maybe from your experience that Brooklyn and the Bronx are way ahead in regards to DEI than Long Island?
I think there are tremendous DEI leaders in Long Island and Brooklyn, right? And I think the way I think of these things is where are those leaders at? How do we connect them like the nonprofit sector connector can and shows like this, right? Bringing those leaders together and how those ideas cascade or trickle throughout a place. It just takes one leader, one project, one podcast, and connecting those folks. It makes the geography different. Absolutely in Long Island. There are some great DEI leaders and some great racial justice leaders. But I think it's not the concentration of the place, but making sure that those folks are connected and then ideas spread and practices spread and strategies come together. So how do we get them connected is the key.
Love that. Shout out, Juliana Mello. I don't think we ever connected. Reach out to me, Tommy D at philanthropyandfocus.com. Send me a note. Let's connect. Obviously, your heart and your mind is in the right place about DEI. So would love to learn more. And you know what? I hear the word coalition, Michael. Maybe it's just more bringing people together, like we talk about, more community, bringing people, have the conversation, because we are change makers. Speaking of change makers, we got to change the pace. We got to go to a quick commercial break. The show is Philanthropy and Focus. I am the nonprofit sector connector, and that's my friend Michael Partis. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Michael Partis, quick question. This just came to me. Last week, I was at the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame. I don't know if you even knew there was one, but it kind of goes into my thing where, Long Island is geographically, Brooklyn and Queens are definitely part of Long Island from a geographical perspective. So I was out there. Did you grow up? Are you a hip hop guy?
Oh man, I'm a huge hip hop guy. I was born and raised in the South Bronx. I love hip hop.
So I was out there last week, and there's a bust of LL Cool J, right? And a big glass, crystal cassette tape. And I got a picture with me with my new Long Island. I like hoodies, Michael. So if there is, just shout out if there's an RHI hoodie, I would like to purchase one ASAP. We got to get that. We got to get that worked out. But I'm out there and I take a picture with this, just me looking at LL, right? And it was and we had actually met LL Cool J years ago at Benihana in Manhasset, right? So he's sitting over there eating. It's my buddy's birthday party. It's 20 years ago. He used to live up in, and I don't know if he still does, but probably lives on the West Coast now. But anyway, we're there, and So I text my buddy Nicky Buglione a picture of me looking at the LL thing. He goes, Tommy D, do you remember when we met him? I go, Benihana in Manhasset, like 20 years ago, Chris DeLuca's birthday. Like that's so it's funny. But so I thought of that while I was pulling up the website and stuff like that, and just thinking about Long Island. And LL hails from Hollis, Queens, as I recall. And early in my career when I worked with ADP, I did a lot of work in Southeast Queens and the Jamaica area and stuff. And I got a lot of family from Queens Village and Hollis, so we know those neighborhoods. So let's talk neighborhoods. Let's talk about RHI. I shared the website while we were coming back from break. The website is rhicenter.org, rhicenter.org. And what I clicked on real quick, and the people who are watching would know, right up on the top of the page, it says monitor the air quality index with us. Wow, Michael Partis. I mean, I actually recall the last time you were on this show and we talked about like the Cross Bronx and air quality in the Bronx and the apartments that are right above the Cross Bronx. And you can't tell me that air quality is good for folks when you got all those hundreds of thousands of trucks and cars going through that place all the time. So let's start really quick if we could, monitor the air quality. Why is that right on the front of the website?
So Red Hook has a similarity to Hutch Point, right? A neighborhood in the Bronx that I used to work deeply in. And in Red Hook, Brooklyn, we have the BQE, right? So we have the massive BQE, which cars, thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions of cars a year come by. That compromises our air quality. The second thing that compromises our air quality here is actually cruise ships. So in cruise ships, we have a cruise ship port here in Red Hook, and cruise ships mostly use diesel, right? So when the cruise ships idle, it creates a poor air quality. The third thing that impacts the air quality in Red Hook is that we've become what they call a last mile delivery site. And so whenever there's an Amazon warehouse where shipping fulfillment happens or the logistics of packages, for example, that creates mostly diesel fueled vehicles. And there's not just Amazon, there are a number of kind of last mile, like delivery, warehouse type of businesses here. So there's a lot of freight. So between the BQE and the freight that we experience going into Manhattan, the cruise ship terminal and their diesel fuel when they idle and go about, and then lastly being last mile and having all these logistics companies use freight to drive through the neighborhood, we actually have pretty poor air quality, outdoor air quality often. And so our intervention, one simple one, is air monitoring. So at the Red Hook Initiative, we actually have a Red Hook's Farm project. So we have 3 acres of farmland. 1 acre is run by NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, and they let us use the land and we grow food. And then the second farm is by Columbia Street. It's the Columbia Street Farm. That's about a 2 acre farm. And at the Columbia Street Farm, we have an air quality reader. And at our office on Hicks Street, we have an air quality reader. And the air quality is run by a software called Purple Air, but it gives you real-time air quality readings in your neighborhood. And so what it is it gives it a much closer geography. The closest publicly accessible air quality reading other than this is in Sunset Park. It's about 3 miles from here, right? So it's not the most hyper local reading, but with this, if you're like, we're having poor air quality today, and there's something more happening in your neighborhood, like construction or whatever have you, you're able to understand, oh, look, it's 160 air quality today. I know something is wrong. So just being able to create the data set so people understand our air quality locally, and we can do some things for environmental justice based on data. For an everyday life, people can just understand the air quality in their neighborhood and get the air quality reading and not feel like they're, losing it. Like, what's going on here? No, it's true. And then from the education perspective, why is the air poor? What is the reading? And that's some of the work that we do here at RHI. We train people and to understand that data, educate them on what causes it, air quality readings, We even, and for indoor air quality, which is a little bit different, working in coalition with other nonprofits to give air purifiers. So that's just one way. Small thing you mentioned, it's a big set of things I just shared.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, I've been on your website before we had lunch a couple weeks ago. I looked at it. I didn't even plan on bringing that up, but it's the first thing that popped up when I pulled it up just now, and I said, let's go there. So let's talk about the organization as a whole. Why does it exist? What was the catalyst? If it, from the history of this organization, why did it become things? We had some anecdotal stuff at lunch a couple weeks back that I want to talk about. When we spoke earlier this week, we were saying, there's some programmatic things you wanted to share. So let's fire it away. Why does Red Hook Initiative exist? Why did it start?
So the Red Hook Initiative began in 2002 as the Red Hook Health Initiative. So it's a community health project at a local hospital, and it was actually focused on women's reproductive health. And the founder of that, an executive director, Jill Eisenhart, she was working with 10 community residents on health. Those residents were women, they were mothers, and they were local leaders in their community. What ended up happening was Jill realized very quickly that this is not just about behavior choices, right? This is not just choose an apple over candy. This is not just choose a walk over sitting.
Right.
Yes, but there's much more. And most of those women lived in public housing, and they lived in the Red Hook houses. So when you looked into their life, it was like, whoa, there's mold. That creates poor air quality. That's certainly impacting your health. And that's not about an individual choice. Oh, the elevator's not working, so you have to take your food and go up 6 flights of stairs. That's not about an individual choice. What's systemically happening? Oh, programs are closing. Oh, there's construction happening and it's ruining the air quality. There's all these other things happening. The second thing, so that evolved into, okay, maybe it's not just about health and behavior and choices, but there are systems and structures that are impacting people's health. And she learned that with these 10 women. The second thing was not just structures, but people, right? So what are the other things happening in these women's lives? And education, workforce, a safe space, wellness. Where would that be in Red Hook? Where could it be? And so the Red Hook Health Initiative evolved into the Red Hook Initiative, an independent nonprofit that's focused on education, focused on health, focused on employment, focused on urban agriculture. That's how we got to, for a community to be well, for a community to be empowered, for a community to be prepared and succeed in leadership, they need all these things. Young people need a safe space to go. And so our after-school program looks like that. Our community center model looks like that. Young people need post-secondary options. Are they going to be college going, like our college success program? Are they going to go into the workforce? Many of our young people, from when they start at RHI, they get some type of role here, and it's compensated, right? But what they learn is they learn how to sign into ADP, Tommy. They learn how to send emails. They learn how to talk to a supervisor, what it's like to be supervised, make an agenda, run a little project. So they learn work all the way through, and then many of them continue on into the workforce piece. We have no-cost mental health for our young people. They can talk to a clinical social worker. We have case management. So if you need support with if you need support with your benefits, we do a number of things. We have urban agriculture. I mentioned the 3 acres of farmland, 30,000 pounds of food. And then lastly, we have intergenerational community organizing. We have a leadership academy, next one launching in April, where people come together to decide what's a campaign they want to do for their community this year. And it can look like going up to Albany, say, hey, we need more funding, to little small community projects, like, hey, we want to slide. So we bring it all together. That's the work.
That's incredible stuff. And gang, if you come up with an idea and you think it's going to impact it, lean in and do the thing, right? I mean, you mentioned Jill and these 10 women, and they were trying to solve for maybe a set of problems, and they realized it goes way deeper than that, and they create an entire organization or initiative that focus on addressing many of these problems or challenges or opportunities. I mean, safe space, community center, post-secondary. I love that you shouted out, they have to learn to sign into ADP because now it's vocational stuff. It's people learning what it is to work. The one that I gotta underscore most of all is you said no cost mental health care. Come back on, tell me about that real quick because that's super important to me.
So we provide clinical social workers, and if any of our young people want to talk to them on a one-on-one basis about things they're experiencing, things they're feeling, we have a safe space here where they can do that one-on-one counseling. It's part of the wellness needs, right, of our neighborhood and community, and we believe in that. And so we've been doing that for almost a decade, providing that no-cost mental health work. It also looks like it's a part of programming. So when we check in, we have like breathing practices,
Yeah,
right? We
right.
have healing through the arts, where it's not about any stigma of any type of thing. It's just how do we practice wellness and self-care? So it's one-on-one for something that you want to talk about if you want a conference, but then we also have how is wellness in every day. And that could look like healing through the arts, coming to the painting class. It could look like walking through the farm and just looking at the plants that we grow because beauty matters. That's how we approach it.
Yeah, I'm hearing you like you're weaving it into the culture of the organization, the mindfulness and the thought around self-care. And shout out to anybody in my network as it relates to mental health, because we're going to do some really cool stuff I'll tell you about in a second. But self-care is not selfish. Self-care is not selfish. It's become cliche, that whole thing about if, in the plane you put on your oxygen mask. So it is cliche, but guess what? It's real. You got to be able to take care of yourself so you can be good for other people. I feel inclined to mention that this afternoon I am recording 2 episodes of a brand new program called Ending the Stigma Together. Shout out to North Shore TV, where we'll be doing that show. Uh, it's a mission. There's something I've been compelled that this is part of my journey, is to continue this dialogue around ending the stigma as it relates to serious mental health and everybody's challenges with mental health. So we're going to have some of those discussions this afternoon, and you'll see that in the coming weeks. We're going to take a quick break. Michael, we come back. What can we do to help out? Who are we looking to meet with? Are there certain collaborators you want to shout out? Are there certain collaborators you're looking for, whether it be on the corporate side, whether it be on the nonprofit side, locally or not locally? This is Philanthropy and Focus. Michael Partis from RHI, Red Hook Initiative, and Tommy D from PIP, Philanthropy and Focus. Right back.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Join Tommy in his attic. It's not. I didn't say that. So Brendan Levy from the Queen's Chamber said, "Join me in the attic." So it's not even me telling you to. Although I would tell you that. Michael Partis, I am so appreciative knowing you. So happy you're my friend. So happy to have you in my life. It's what inspires me to do this show every week. It's what fires me up. Is that I get to talk to people who are on the front lines making the changes, and I believe that this show helps spotlight that and helps tell stories. So that's my mission. So let's get into it. What else we want to know about programming, and what else we want to know about what's upcoming with the organization, and or who do you want to connect with?
One thing I would love is some support. We're creating a hardship fund. What's happening right now in Red Hook is since the first week of December, 72 people in our community have come and said that they had their EBT stolen. EBT is formerly known as food stamps. So 72 families to date, as of today, have had their benefits stolen since the first week of December. The challenge is that the reimbursement date, the deadline was December 20th. The federal government was reimbursing. The deadline was December 20th. But there's been many people since then who have, at least 25 more people have come in since then to us and had their EBT stolen. So there's a question of, until some type of reimbursement is processed, how are people purchasing food, number one. Number two, people and the cards, right? What's happening with the safety of that? But right now, we're just trying to meet people's need. So we're trying to raise money to provide funds for anybody who in our community or neighborhood who have been affected, who had their stamp, their EBT stolen. We have a fund. We're taking donations to provide reimbursements. I will share the link. And Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, if you can spread the word as well. All the donations, all the proceeds will go to residents to get reimbursed until there's some better solution to this terrible fraud that's happening.
I want to talk more about that fraud, but if somebody goes to Red Hook Initiative, the website, rhicenter.org, Michael, is that the best way, or should they reach it? Yeah, I know you said you're going to send me a link because there's a donation link here, but you want to kind of keep this separated. Is that right?
Yeah, if anyone wants to go in now to the donation link, they could just put a little note that says EBT hardship fund, and we'll direct the funds there. And then there's a specific link that lays out everything that I just said about what's happened, why it's happened, what are we trying to do, and other media coverage reporting on this terrible set of theft.
Yeah.
So right now today, if you want to click the link, put EBT hardship, and we'll direct the money to the hardship fund. Development at rhicenter.org. Shoot us an email if you want to have more questions or talk more. And after this episode, Tommy D will help me out and get a link out there where people can learn more and make a donation.
Yeah, I will. And just to stay on that, I think maybe as that story progresses, I mean, you told me this over lunch. So bottom line, what I understood was people are taking their EBT card, they go into the supermarket, the grocery to get food, and they're finding out that there's no balance on their card. So somebody has committed fraud and stolen the money off, and now to add insult to injury, now folks are out of the money, and now we got to wait and try and figure out when the government's going to be able to, I would assume, eventually reimburse. Now, I'd love to do a segment just on that. Maybe maybe we could talk later after we do the show today. I'd love to just do 30 minutes on that, Michael, if you want to. Yeah. All right. So we'll do that just to kind of shine a light on that, sort of like an investigative reporting with Tommy D or something like that. But that is, I joke, but it's serious business, man, because that's people's money that they depend on that's not there. So we'll talk about that. But if you want to make the donation, Michael gave you the details and I'll share it out. Michael, what else is going on for the organization upcoming that we should know about?
One other thing happening is our annual benefit dinner is called the Taste of Red Hook. It's called a Taste of Red Hook. It will be May 1st, Thursday, May 1st, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Liberty Warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. It is our annual benefit dinner. We just went with the save the date out there publicly yesterday. So if folks are interested, I'm looking for corporations that would love to be a sponsor. I would love to talk to corporations that would want to sponsor this work. I would love to talk to folks who want to be host to help us raise money. It's really critical. Just going back to right now, the 72 families that we're helping, it's $32,000 total in EBT benefits that they've lost. So by supporting RHI with a donation, or by being a sponsor, a corporate sponsor, or buying tickets or being a host for our benefit dinner, the Taste of Red Hook, this is an investment in the sustainability and the resilience of a community, because that money is what goes into the caseworkers who are helping families, the hardship funds where we're able to help people move forward, the youth that we educate, the air quality that we're monitoring. You are helping a community who already has local solutions sustain and continue by either making a donation, becoming a sponsor, or supporting us in any way. So Taste the Red Hook, May 1st, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., Liberty Warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. We're looking for corporate sponsors, of course, when tickets go live to buy, and anyone who wants to host. Development@rhicenter.org.
What does that mean, anyone who wants to host? What do you mean by that?
So the host would make a commitment to sell a certain amount of tickets.
Okay.
Or gather a certain amount of donations.
Got it. All right. So now we got to do another show.
Well, Tommy D, I'm going to definitely get you out there.
No, I already, May 1st, 6 to 9, I will be there. I will share, this is just some of your existing relationships in the past that have supported. I'll give them a quick shout out, Michael, but anything we want to leave folks with while I'm sharing this last thing, you'll see some of the Red Hook based companies here, Brooklyn Crab, Brooklyn Gin, Brooklyn Ice House, some big names like IKEA, Bloomberg, Philanthropies has been involved in the past and things like that. So Michael and I will help you navigate what's the best fit for you and your organization as it goes forward leading up into the event, which is May 1st. And it's Liberty, what's the name of the spot again? Liberty
Warehouse, right on the water. The best view of the Statue of Liberty you can find in New York City.
I'm wondering if that's the spot that Kofo had an event. Our colleague Kofo had an event a couple of years ago, and that's the first time I met her. It's a spot in Brooklyn. It's very industrial. It is on the water. That might be it, but it's been a couple of years, so I'll text her later on to see. I don't know if that's it, but that was a really cool space too. Listen, this has been an absolute pleasure. I am so grateful to know you, man. You're doing such great work in the world. Thanks for continuing to do it. Thanks for continuing to stay in touch with me. Listen, let's make a big play, everybody, to be out May 1st with Michael and team. And everybody, I say this, make it a great day. I'll see you next week. This has been another In Focus production. See you guys later. Bye. Thanks.
Nonprofits need